welcome to RPTV. This is Politalks. My name is Kaylin. I'm your host. I am here with Andrew Cash, who is the MP for the Davenport district? Riding.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So to start off, could you just tell me a little bit about what your role as an MP is in the day?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, it's great to be here, and thanks for having me. And so there's three levels of government, essentially. There's the city level, the municipal level, and we just had recent elections for a new mayor and a new city council. And then there's the provincial level, that we have a provincial government here, and Toronto's the capital city of the province of Ontario. And then we have a federal level, and Stephen Harper is the Prime Minister, and the country is divided up into ridings. There's currently 308, although we're getting more seats for the 2015 election, and there's going to be just over 330, I think, for 2015. And so essentially the people in my riding of Davenport, that's who I am sent to Ottawa to represent, and what I do, and I mean, you can talk to different MPs and they're going to have different answers to this question, but essentially my job is, the way I look at it is, I'm there to listen to the people in my riding and hear what their issues are, the things that are concerning them, and then try to find ways to basically push those issues in the House of Commons and in Parliament, and to try to make positive change in the lives of my constituents and hopefully all Canadians.
Okay, cool. So how does this differ from the role of the Premier or the Mayor of Toronto?
Well, you know, I'm a member of Parliament, and I'm also part of the official opposition. So certainly every MP represents their riding, and they do it in the best way that they can, hopefully, if they're good MPs, that's what they do. But certainly, you know, the mayor has a very large mandate around municipal issues, and that person is the leader of the city, just as the Premier is for Ontario and the Prime Minister is for Canada.
Okay, cool. So in your online media, you kind of talk about the Harper government being slightly disconnected on issues with youth labor
for sure.
And urban workers. Could you talk about the current situation there and the current situation for youth workers?
Well, hey, this is a really good question, and it's a super important question. Right now, we know that the unemployment rate for young people in Canada is about twice the national average. We also know that, for example, here in Ontario, we have the largest the highest tuition in the country. People are graduating, young people are graduating with debt loads in the $30,000 and $40,000 range, and then they end up in a job market where they can't find a job in their trained profession. And what we're seeing as well is a preponderance of unpaid work. You know, we call them unpaid internships, and some of them are training opportunities, and you know, the universities and colleges have these co-op programs and internship programs where people go out and get sort of hands-on practical experience for the jobs that they're training for, and I think some of that is very good stuff. But what we're seeing now is a total abuse of this whole idea of unpaid internships, and we're seeing highly profitable and quite powerful Canadian companies availing themselves of free labor from young people, because young people are desperate to get a toehold in the job market.
Right. Okay, another issue that you've spoke on a lot is multiculturalism. Could you talk about your stance on that? And
well, yeah, so I'm the multiculturalism critic for the NDP, and I am very involved in the issue of citizenship and immigration and multiculturalism in a general way. And I think, look, we say here in Toronto, for example, we are very proud of the fact that we are a multicultural city, and I'm very proud of that fact too, and I represent a riding that is overwhelmingly multicultural. The majority of the people I represent were not born here in Canada. And what really concerns me right now is the fact that it is so difficult for people to get their parents or their loved ones over here to Canada. I mean, when people come to Canada, we say to them, you know, you get your status, your landed status, or your permanent residency, or your citizenship, you can bring your family over because you are a full member of the Canadian family, just as I'm a full member of the Canadian family. I have my family here. Why can't you have your family here? And I think that our government has reneged on the promise that we make to immigrants when they come to Canada, that they can be reunited with their family. Right now we're hearing stories of certain communities where it's taking 9 years to bring their grandparents or to bring their parents over to Canada. This is ridiculous. This is outrageous, and it's a real slap in the face to our brothers and sisters here in Canada who are just as every bit a part of the society as anybody else.
Yeah. Are there barriers to bringing your family over currently?
Well, yeah, there's huge barriers. The federal government has gutted the department that in a sense they've cut back on the very people that process these applications. The government has shifted the direction of immigration from what it has traditionally been, where you know, we encourage families to come, we encourage people to build a permanent life here in Canada, right? That's how Toronto was essentially physically built, and that's how our society has developed in the way that it has. We've gone from that to a model where everything's temporary. Work is temporary and residency is temporary, and that is just the wrong way to go, and that's not the way that the NDP sees immigration.
Now to switch a little over to another topic that's been huge in Toronto, and one of the things that the last mayoral election was kind of decided on, and that is transit. The Metrolinx fare pricing became available last week. It's an issue that you've talked about a lot, and you've talked about the cleanliness of the train and the environmental impact. Are you happy with the results of the Metrolinx in regards to
the pricing? No, absolutely not. I mean, so let's just put this in a little context here. We are building a train that's going to run from Pearson International Airport to Union Station. Okay, that's good that we're doing that. And who's paying for that? Well, the taxpayers are paying for that. Okay, so the people that live in the area, the thousands upon thousands of people in the area have very clearly and loudly told the provincial government that this train should be an electric train instead of what they decided to use was diesel. Now diesel is a known carcinogen. The WHO ranks it up there with mustard gas and arsenic. You know, we're one of the only, I think we're the only major city that's building this kind of rail infrastructure using diesel. Everyone else is using electric. The provincial government itself has finally agreed that yes, they should be electrified, and also not building it electric in the first instance is going to cost us $400 million more when they finally get around to doing it, notwithstanding all of the particulate that we'll be breathing in the interim as these trains whip up and down this line. So that's one thing. The use of diesel trains are heavier and slower, so it takes longer for them to get up to speed, it takes longer for them to slow down. Therefore, they weren't able to build more than the 2 piddly stops that they have on this line. It's a 23-kilometer line, and there's 2 stops, neither of which connect to the TTC. Okay, so then finally, the fare price is $27. Now, so not only are the residents of our city paying for the building of it, not only are the residents in my community paying for it in terms of the environmental degradation and the health hazards and the lifestyle changes, because we're going to have way more trains running up and down, but there's few stops and no one can afford to ride it. So this train we're paying all of the cost, but it's not built for us, and I think that is outrageous. I think people have every right to be very ticked off about this.
Definitely. On the subway, I always see the TCC union ad, and it highlights the private and public partnerships, and this is a product of that. Do you think that private public partnerships are effective for this city?
Well, the Auditor General is the Provincial Auditor General has just delivered a report that shows that private-public partnerships has cost the provincial government about $8 billion. So no, this is the wrong way to go, and now we have irrefutable proof that it's costing us all a ton of money.
It is. It definitely is.
I mean, I just want to say that there's been this idea that, you know, the private sector can do everything better than the public sector, and that's just not true. That is just not true. Sometimes it might be true. But as a global, truth, no, that is just simply not true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here today. We were so glad to have you. I'm Kaylin. I'm here with Andrew Cash, who is the MP for the Davenport riding in Toronto. This is it for Politalks on RTV. Thank you for watching.